Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of One Pod Life. Now I'm recording this just before the last round of the Masters, hoping that John Rahm can pull it back and get back up there. He's my pick for the week, so fingers crossed. But for now, let's talk about my next guest on the podcast. Now, he's a YouTube teaching professional. He's got almost 250,000 subscribers on YouTube alone, so he knows a tool thing about social media. His name is Chris Ryan. Now, me and Chris talk about life as a teaching pro, how he ended up becoming a YouTube sensation, plus a few things we didn't really know about Chris. So sit tight and listen to the next episode of One Pod Life. Now please welcome Chris Ryan. Evening, Chris, and welcome to the One Pod Life podcast. How you been?
Really good. Yeah, really good. Obviously a little bit different at the moment with this current lockdown, but as far as myself, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, thank you for coming on to the podcast and sharing some light on who you are. There's quite a lot of background stuff I didn't actually know about yourself, so we'll come to that in a bit, which is quite interesting. But obviously, most people know you as a YouTube golf professional, and as you say on your Instagram page, you're helping people play better golf. But yeah, you've had a bit of a sort of quite a good career to date. And it all kind of started. I did a podcast with Andy Proudman a few weeks ago, and he said that you guys actually sort of started or grew up together really at the golf club.
Yeah, I joined a little club called Oxley Park Golf Club in Wolverhampton, in the Midlands. And as I joined, I was like 13 years old, and I wasn't really a golfer, to be honest. I got a pretty cheap set of clubs and a handicap of about 39 or something like that. And Piers was working in the shop. And Andy was already a member. So, and obviously back then there was no me and my golf. They were just friends. And the three of us used to play a lot of golf together. And actually Andy beat me in a playoff of the club championship one year as well. So I'll never let him.
I'm sure he doesn't let you forget that one.
No, I just pulled his leg. I tell him I let him win, which I didn't really.
No, good stuff. Well, he did prop me up because obviously you've got a bit of a Brownie accent, and he said to bring it up to make sure everyone can actually understand what you're talking about.
So he's far worse. Than me.
Yeah, no, he is. No, you put me up to saying it, but no, I can understand every word you're saying, so we're good. So, like you said, so you didn't actually wasn't a golfer then when you joined the golf club, but then what sort of spurred you on to want to pursue golf?
Yeah, if you think of where we are now, I took the game pretty late. Mm-hmm. But back then it was pretty normal to, start when you were 12, 13. But kind of nowadays, obviously, you get the kids starting when they're kind of 4 or 5 years old. I just did other stuff. I did football. I did, rugby, tennis, that kind of stuff. And then one of my friends at school started to play golf. And he just kept coming into school and he just kept talking about golf at the weekend. And I just kept thinking it sounds pretty good, actually. And so, I didn't start until I was about 13. And then I would say within 18 months, 2 years, I would have told you then that that's what I wanted to do, whether it was to play golf or work in golf or just be in the golf industry, because it was kind of, I guess, within 2 years, I figured out that I loved golf and I didn't see that changing.
No, definitely. So at that, obviously when you decided you wanted to be involved with golf, what was your admission then? Do you know what it was, or were you just happy playing the game and being around the golf club? Yeah,
I think at that stage, when I was kind of 13, 14, 15, I just loved the game. And I remember saying to my dad that, I want to work in golf. I want to be around golf. And at that stage, it never really occurred to me that I could, potentially play golf as a living, because I was probably still off like 28 or something.
Yeah.
And then obviously a little bit later, you start to get down to a little bit of a better handicap and you start to have these dreams of, mixing it with the best in the world.
Of course.
They're quite short-lived. But yeah, I think early on, I just knew that I loved golf, and just, even to the point where I would, I'd go to the golf club and play golf, and then just hang around at the pro shop for like 3 hours. I just love it. Love being around golf and just talking about golf and, just being around that environment. I just loved it. Okay.
So obviously, like you said, you got down to a decent handicap. What sort of handicap was you at, like sort of 14, 15?
Still pretty high, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I turned pro when I was 18.
Okay.
And that wasn't because I wanted to play professionally. That was just because I did my PGA training.
Yep.
And so from kind of, I was like 13 when I joined Oxley. And so from sort of 14 to 18, my handicap just kept coming down. So when I turned pro, I was only a 4.
Okay.
But as I turned pro, and then the next few years, I got better and better and better. But I mean, I went from pretty much, not playing golf to turning professional in kind of 4 to 5 years. So my handicap was kind of in the process of dropping, but I never got to plus figures. I didn't do anything like England golf or play for the county or anything like that. I think had I have probably taken up the game a little earlier and got down to kind of 3 or 4 bits sooner, that might have happened. But when I was 15, I was still playing off sort of 27, 28.
Right, okay, wow.
So around losing golf balls and ball putting and stuff like that.
So it's quite a quick turnaround. Like you said, over 4 years, you got from being introduced to golf to actually then turning pro. And at any point, obviously, you passed your PGA exams in 2005. But before that, did you have any aspirations to even pursue being a playing professional?
Not really, because when I did my PGA training, I was a 4, and so anyone who tells me now they want to play professionally off 4, I'm telling them that they've got their way to go. So I was kind of thinking really that the PGA training was more kind of my introduction to the industry, and it was really within those 3 years that I just still got better and better and better. And then I reckon, had I have kept a handicap when I finished my PGA training, I'd have probably been close to +1, +2 at that point. And then you start to think a little bit more like, okay, maybe I can, if the rate of improvement continues, then you kind of think, well, I might be able to do something in this game. Certainly when I did my PGA training off 4, I was still pretty ropey and scrapping it around for a 4 handicap rather than actually shooting under par at that point.
Okay. Well, I'll go back to you said like I said, you actually sort of passed your exams in 2005 with honours, I might add, and also you apparently got the coveted top 10 place in the Trainee of the Year award.
I did.
What was that about?
Well, it was a kind of ranking system they did over the 3 years, and it just covered everything really from the academic side of it really. So all of the kind of modules, the club fitting, the coaching, the business side of it, and it was all to do with the kind of assignments and the exams, and they ranked the top 15. Okay. And after that, you either pass or you fail, but they ranked the top 15. And so I think I can't remember, I came top 10 or something. And it was, that was nice. That was a personal achievement, really. That was good. The PJ headquarters are based at the Belfry. And that's where I was. So it was really quite handy because any issues that I had with any of the coursework, I could just nip into the office and speak to the
It's always handy.
People there. So it was pretty handy. And then you get people who were doing their training from Ireland, and you think, well, they can't just pop in. So I had a little bit of advantage. And when I joined the Belfry, there was a really, really strong team of professionals there. Really experienced, and they really helped us. They had this kind of whole layout, and it was very much a case of the professionals at the Belfry at the time helped us through our training.
So was you working at the Belfry when you were doing the exams? Yeah,
so I was doing. Okay. You'd say that the Belfry was obviously a golf venue. The roles that I was doing weren't particularly golf related. Kind of washing buggies and selling drinks on the golf course and picking balls on the range. But you're in and around golf, and I was kind of 18, 19 and just loved it. I'm at the Belfry. It was one of the best venues in the world, and I was working around golf and got to play the course for free. And they were some of the best years of my life, really.
Well, you were there for 16 of them, so it wasn't too bad.
16 years. It was a long time, really. It goes quick.
Yeah. You end up being the senior coach there, which isn't obviously no mean feat on its own. So you must have been doing something right. Yeah,
I got really into the coaching, obviously, quite early, going through the PJ training. You do, the PJ training pretty much covers you for whatever you want to do in golf. If you want to be a director of golf, if you want to be a coach, if you want to be a club fitter, if you want to be in the business side of it kind of goes through all those modules. And so the people on that training, some of them are kind of going through that thinking they really want to be a director of golf. Some of them are thinking they want to be club fitters. And as I was going through that training and being exposed to all those kind of areas, coaching was the one that really just
stuck out for you.
Just reached out to me. I was fascinated by, the golf swing and how it worked and the different methods of coaching. And so it's a fairly natural progression for me following that to then go into coaching and start to do a little bit of coaching. And so I guess from sort of 2005 onwards, I just progressed and just built my way up to to the point of senior coach. But it was a natural progression, really. You know, you kind of, and everyone says this, it's like when you learn to drive a car, you pass your test and you really learn after you've passed your test. That's when you start to get experience, and it's the same with coaching. You know, if I look at what I did after I qualified, that was when I really started to, you know, kind of learn a little bit more about coaching and the art of getting people to play better.
No, good. I think going back to what you just said about the PGA exams, it's not just about coaching. You can go and do like your club fitting and learn how to do that from the exam and get a qualification that way. I didn't know that you could do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant that way. You know, I mean, I was actually going to do business studies at university and didn't in the end because I wanted to do my PGA. But you know, you do business at the PGA, and so you know, you do business, you do fitness, so you learn all about the body and the muscles and that kind of stuff. So it's a really really good course. And like I say, whatever you really want to do within golf, you can do it based. Well, so you can do it. It gives you a great start. You know, it's like
definitely.
You know, you can't do the PGA training and then go and coach on tour, but it gives you that starting point that you can. And I think for a lot of people, when they go through the training of 3 years, it's kind of a journey to help them maybe figure out where they want to go. Mm-hmm. So for me, example, I did my PGA. I knew I wanted to work in golf, but the person that came out of the training was a lot clearer on what they want to do than the person who went into training, and that was a really good part of it.
No, great stuff. I also read, obviously, you was around the Belfry, the 2002 Ryder Cup time. Did you have much involvement in that? And if so, what sort of experiences did you get to have?
I didn't get any points for the team. If that's what you mean. That was one of the best weeks of my life, really, because I'd only been there a year,
right?
And it was a really strange one because it was actually the 2001 Ryder Cup that got put back a year because of 9/11.
Right. Okay.
So we had all the stands had gone up on the course. You imagine what the grandstands are like then; they're huge.
Yep.
And 9/11 happened, and they cancelled the event, and it was done a year later. But the way it works then, and I'm guessing it's the same now, is the whole venue is taken over by the Ryder Cup, and so nobody can get access to the hotel unless you are a player, you know, family, caddies, you know, the team. Mm-hmm. And so the golf shop was still open. But we weren't allowed to sell anything that didn't have a Ryder Cup logo on it. So concerning tees, it had to be, you know, Ryder Cup clothing. So the jobs that we normally did, which was kind of, you know, marshalling the courses and that kind of stuff, obviously they weren't there. So because we were contracted, they had to give us hours. So I was working in the shop. Now, can you imagine Tiger Woods walking around the shop buying some clothes? It's not going to happen, is it?
No.
So the shop was just dead. There was just no one in the shop. So I would go in, swipe in, turn up into the shop, and then the girls who worked in the shop would be like, just go and watch the golf. so I'd just go and watch the golf. And every now and then someone would come into the shop, you know, like a player's wife or a family, but it was really quiet. Yeah. I remember once I was in there in the morning and I was watching the golf. They had screens in there watching the golf. And I was stood there with one of my friends who was also going through the training. We were stood there watching this TV, and it was the replay from the previous day. And he just starts nudging me on my right arm, and he's giving me these weird look, and his eyes have gone really funny. And I'm thinking, what the hell is he doing? And he's kind of like gesturing me, like behind me. Yeah. And I turned around, and Tiger stood about 2 feet behind me watching the golf.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. I was like, you know, just turn back and kind of watch the golf, and man, he kind of watched a bit and he walked out. So yeah, great. That was one of the best weeks.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Experience. But I didn't actually have a lot of involvement to answer your question.
But at least you was around it. You got to like you said, you got to go out there and watch it, which is even better. And you had a brief encounter with Tiger Woods. How many people can say that?
Absolutely. But if anyone's been to a Ryder Cup, it's both the best experience of a golf tournament and also slightly the worst, because the atmosphere, it's like a football. It's only golf tournament I've been. It's like a football match. The roar, it's incredible. You know, it gives you the hairs on the back of your neck. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, because you've got 4 groups on the course at any time, you really find it hard to see any golf because it's like 10 deep. You know, so you're kind of trying to get a position. It's really hard to actually see clearly the golf, but to be there in the atmosphere is incredible.
I can imagine. It's definitely on my bucket list. But I was supposed to go to watch the Open this year, but obviously been put back to next year. So I've got my tickets for next year anyway. And I'm really looking forward to going and watch that and imagine and sort of feel the crowds, and hopefully if we're still allowed to go. And
well, if you want to get a really good view, you want to try and play yourself into the team if you can, because that's
I've got a way to go from that one, but I'll give it a go. But no, good stuff. Well, okay. Well, so after your 16 years at the Belfry, looks like you sort of went away from it and you started becoming the director of golfing at the HIT Golf Academy at the Marriott Forest of Arden. So how did that come about?
So the Forest of Arden's only 10 minutes down the road from the Belfry.
Yep.
And the Belfry had been brilliant for me for 16 years. I'm still friends with so many people I met there, so many good experiences, opened so many doors for me. But it had got to the point where I probably felt like I needed a bit of a change. I've been there 16 years and, things were maybe not as fresh as they were back at the start. Yep. And just the way they structured the coaching I didn't feel it helped me with what I was trying to do.
Okay.
In terms of, I was starting at that point to get a little bit more technology within my coaching, starting to have a TrackMan, starting to have a kind of pressure mapping system. And as a coach, there was no dedicated coaching area.
Okay.
So I'd be turning up, pulling into the car park with 8 hours solid coaching and not knowing where I was going to coach, whether I'd have a plug socket anywhere near me to plug, and I felt kind of anxious every time I was driving to work. And I just kind of thought, I need my own space. I need a studio, which is mine, so I can set it up the way I want. So I was giving lessons to people one week with the TrackMan data on a big plasma. Mm-hmm. And then a week later, we're down in Bay 34 and I've got no plug and it's on my phone. And I just thought, this isn't really how I want to be doing my coaching.
It's not a good experience for the golfer, is it?
Exactly. And obviously the information's the same, but it's the experience, like you say, for the golfer. So an opportunity arose that we could take on the coaching rights at the Forest of Arden. A good friend of mine, who I also know from the Belfry, was already coaching there. Okay. He reached out to me and said, look, I think we can probably take over the coaching and create something here. And then another friend of ours who had been at St Andrews Golf Academy for a few years, he was coming back. So the three of us kind of said, well, let's take over the coaching rights there and let's kind of do that ourselves. So that's how it happened, really. It kind of came at the right time. That was available. Yep. I was looking for kind of something a little different. And because the way it works at the Forest of Arden, way it does work, is that we're on a slightly different payment plan.
Okay.
So I pay, and then what I do after that is entirely to me. So if I choose to not coach for a couple of weeks because I want to film loads of content, it's not a problem. Whereas at the Belfry, because I was paying a commission on each lesson, if I decided to go for 2 weeks not coaching, they're kind of looking at me going, hang on, you're not really made us any money here. What's going on? So
okay, I see what you're saying.
It worked a lot better for me. And the Forest of Arden's a phenomenal venue. The course is incredible. It worked out really well.
Well, obviously, moving to there, then setting up the academy, it then led you to set up the YouTube channel where you're now probably one of the top sort of social media professional golfers, teachers. You're approaching 250,000 subscribers on YouTube alone. And so what made you move into the YouTube and social media scene?
Just a bit of a vision, I think. Not trying to claim I was thinking the future, but I think I just saw an opportunity with everything really, with Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I think I was lucky enough that I kind of saw the value in that fairly early, and so I kind of jumped on it fairly quick. And initially, it was really more of a case of when I started it, my coaching diary wasn't full. It was getting full, but it wasn't full. So I was kind of thinking, well, how do I get more lessons?
Yeah.
And then you start looking at magazines and newspapers and articles, and you think, well, I'm paying here to advertise. Whereas I'm thinking there's a couple of platforms where it's absolutely free, and the kind of more content I put on there, the more people that see it, it's kind of like advertising. So I really used it as a chance to fill my lesson diary.
Yeah.
And that was how it started, really. And it did exactly that. The more the Instagram grew and YouTube grew, people started to book in, and I pretty quickly managed to fill my lesson diary, which was kind of the initial goal, really. It was kind of free advertising, and it helped that way.
And it kind of escalated from there.
Absolutely, yeah. I think once you kind of always say this about social media is that it's like a snowball.
Yep.
You're doing the right thing, and when I say the right thing, it's the right thing for you.
Yep.
Then it's like a snowball. The more you push it, the bigger it gets, and then it just becomes addictive. You just start the more content you put, out there, and the more you grow, and so the more content, the more you grow, and it's just like pushing that snowball. You just keep pushing it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And once you start on that journey, it kind of hooks you, and it is absolutely addictive.
Mm-hmm. No, even from my level where I'm at, you can feel it. Once you get a success, you hit the 1,000 mark, you hit the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. You think, well, I can get more and more, and you put more content out to sort of engage with more people. And like you said, you got to do it your way. Especially that's the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, and I think you've probably figured out this, and we had a conversation on Instagram a few weeks ago, but you kind of have to learn a whole new craft. You have to learn how to take photos, and you have to learn how to use videos and how to edit videos and how to use Photoshop. And for me, I'm someone who loves learning new things. It has to be something I want to learn.
Of course, yeah.
But I'm fascinated by the whole kind of the videography, color grading, Photoshop, and so for me, it's been a journey for me as a business. But actually, I've really enjoyed the kind of personally learning the new skills. And I would say that what's interesting, and we spoke about it before, is that 70% of my business now is based on skills that I've had to learn in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Before that, it was all kind of PJ training, it was coaching, and now it's based on video editing and Photoshop and social media, and it's a very different set of skills that I'm having to use now than I did 10 years ago.
No, definitely. I think that's one of the good things about it. Everyone's grown as an individual. You're bettering yourself, which can only be a good thing going forward anyway, in social media life or even personal life as well.
Exactly, and I think it's like a golf game, isn't it? If I look at what I posted on Instagram originally and what I post now, the content in terms of what's being portrayed might be fairly similar, but the quality I'd hope is a little bit better. It's the same as golf, isn't it? The more you practice, the more you do it, just the better you get, really, and the more you learn. And especially if you're hungry to learn, you want to learn, then it is a journey. You can look back at my posts from 5 years ago and look at them now. I can hopefully see that there's a bit of a journey there.
No, good stuff. Well, one of the things I always intrigues me, and hopefully you can give me an answer to this, is so as a professional coach, there's only so much you can probably put out there, but how do you continue to create content that brings value for people in the way they're trying to get better? Is it led by requests that you get through people DMing you or leaving comments, or is it that you just sort of rotate content to suit?
It's a tricky one. It definitely is. I'll come to the content in a minute, but what's interesting about the DMs, and there is a hell of a lot of those, in the comments, can you do a video on this, or the Instagram, can you do this? But it always fascinates me how they're so specific to that person.
Yeah.
And I have to chuckle because obviously, they want some help, and that's fine. But I'm thinking to myself, you must realize that I'm putting content out there that's hopefully reaching, the whole world.
Yeah.
But I'll get messages like, can you talk about a 4-iron off the tee because I really struggle on my 4th hole? Probably not going to help. No. It's not going to help Bill who lives in Florida, or it's you know what I mean? It's like, it's so specific to their golf course. Or can you talk about a sloping putt because on the 18th hole at my course, it's a really sloping putt and I struggle. I'm like, well, that's quite specific. It's like, that might require an individual lesson.
Well, I was going to say, we'll book you in for lesson and we'll see how we get on.
Exactly. But in terms of the content, I think, and certainly I would say that in the last 5 years, in terms of my individual coaching, so when I'm with a person, I've definitely learned the value in communication and kind of reading a person and looking at how they actually learn. Is it more visual? Is it more, is it more the feels, or is it the concepts? And everyone's different. And so if you think about a typical kind of slice, I kind of see my job on YouTube is to put out content that will help every single offer out there. So I might do 2 slice videos. One might be a very kind of, this is how you're going to fix the slice. You're going to strengthen your grip. You're going to make sure the club face is closed. You're going to make sure the club head is deeper, all those kind of things. And then the next video might be very much a case of, okay, if you don't want any swing thoughts, this is how you stop a slice. Mm-hmm. And the next one might be a case of, okay, well, here's a quick fix. So you're just trying to say, well, actually, if you're talking about a slice, there can be 4 or 5 different videos just based on how the person consumes the content.
Yep.
So one video that people will comment on my YouTube and say, this is far too complicated.
Yeah.
And I will say, well, that's fine. It's not for you. There will be videos out there on my channel which keep it really simple. Mm-hmm. But people, the end goal is always the same. If we go for a slice, we're always trying to change the path and the face. That's the nuts and bolts of it. But there's different ways of saying it. There's different ways of putting it across. We can change it quickly through setup. We can get someone to really think about the club face. There's lots of different ways. And so it's more of a case of saying, well, actually, there's a piece of information which I think could help people. How many different ways can I put that across so that it will appeal to as many different people? And then within that, you can then just keep creating content over and over and over.
Yeah. Well, I guess as well, it's like you said, it's trying to reach all aspects of a golfer. You've got your guys who are playing off your level scratch, your plus ones, so your guys who are playing off 28. And the content you've got to put out. And like you said, if you do 3 or 4 different versions, they're all differently technically minded, different levels of execution, so people can take bits and parts of what they want and put it into their game.
That's it. I mean, if I do a video which is a drill to help a certain issue, I will appreciate that there's going to be thousands of people out there watching that video who never go to the range.
Yep.
They just play Saturday morning, Sunday morning with their friends and never go to the range. So any video which is let's go to the range and do this drill just won't apply to them. Mm-hmm. So there will be a video at some point which is, okay, same problem, but how do you fix it on the course? Well, let's create. And this is where it becomes really quite, I say messy, but that golfer who doesn't go to the range, I might do a video and say, okay, here's how to stop your slice by changing your setup. Mm-hmm. So you tweak your setup, and on the course, it's going to stop your slice. And then people comment and go, well, that's not the right setup. And I'm like, no, I'm not saying it's the right setup. I'm saying if you don't go to the range and you only play, and this is your quick fix, this will work. And that's where people get really confused sometimes, because they're like, well, the video you did last time, you didn't do that setup. And I'm like, you're trying to help as many people as you can. Yeah. And because you're putting it across in different ways, it really can come across quite contradictory. Well, hang on, you didn't say that last time. And it's like, well, I know that, but you're just trying to put it across so different people can take out what they want from the content. And I think, with content, it's like anything, you have to take a little bit of ownership and say what is for me and what isn't for me.
Yeah, and that's what I do when I'm watching YouTube videos. Like obviously, I watch quite a few of yours. I watch Andy and Piers. I watch some other stuff that comes out, and sometimes I'll watch a video and go, "Well, this isn't for me." Halfway through, I know it's not for me, so I'll switch off and I'll go to something else. I'm not going to get downhearted and start having a go at you for not putting out the right content that suits my game. But I'll definitely take parts of it and put it together.
I think that's where, you listen to the best coaches, and they're all trying to do the same thing in terms of they're all trying to get the player to take the ownership, and sort of get the player to understand their own swing, so the coach doesn't really have to be there. Yeah. And I think the more, and I'd urge everybody who's listening, there are people out there who will watch every single video and try it. And I'm like, it's not to try. It's trying to figure out what you need to do to get better. So, you need to learn a little bit about ball flight laws, what shots you're hitting, what's creating that, and then try and find the content which addresses that. Mm-hmm. But I'll do a video on something and people go, I'm going to try this one. I'm like, no, it's not to try. It's kind of, it's to fix a specific problem. If you haven't got that problem, it's not going to help you.
Must be a minefield for you sometimes.
It's so I was saying this to one of my colleagues the other day. I kind of said, what's really difficult is that you really forget what it's like to be a new golfer or a high handicapper, because it has been so long. But I kind of, it is sometimes frustrating, but at the same time, I went to buy, talking a few years ago, I went to buy a new camera, and it's a minefield. And I'm thinking, this is what it must be like for a new golfer. I'm trying to look at different reviews and different specs, and there's numbers jumping in my head, and there's this and there's that, and this one's better. And I'm thinking, I've looked at that much stuff that I don't know which camera to buy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's kind of what it's like as a new golfer. And I think sometimes as coaches, we have to kind of, whilst it does frustrate us, we do have to appreciate that it's difficult when you're a 20 handicapper and you're not sure what your goal swing is, and you're not sure why you slice it, and you're not sure why you top it, and you're trying to figure it out, and it's difficult.
No, definitely. Well, I think you're doing a good job, mate. So keep it up.
Hopefully.
Like I said, I watch a lot of your videos. I always look out for the next one that comes out. I'll give it a watch, and like you said, I'll dissect it and work out if it's right for my game and my swing. And I think that's the only thing that people can do.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to use the kind of social networks.
All right, so I'm going to do some quick questions. They're probably little sort of tip things I'm hoping you might be able to give people. So the first one is quite relevant to me. I've just changed coaches, and I'm seeing a new guy who, funny enough, is I've actually looked at quite a few sort of concepts and things around that people are doing. And I listened to quite a sort of Pete Cowan sort of podcast that he's been on, and quite like the concept of stuff that he talks about. So my new coach actually goes to his academy, so it's saying that I can trust in myself. So one of my questions was, what should people look for in a coach?
I mean, Pete's one of the best. He's always gone a little under the radar. I think proper golf enthusiasts know who Pete is, but for many, they don't. And I think that's by choice. He prefers to go under the radar, but he's a great coach. Good question. I would say if it was me, I would be looking, and this is, I'm not trying to disrespect anybody who's not a full-time coach, but I would be looking for a full-time coach. There are people out there who are club pros, who run the shop, who do that, who do a bit of coaching, and for me, I know from my experience just how difficult it is to become, the best coach I can be. And so if it was 20 to 30% of someone's business, I'd be just a little concerned that they've not, been on the right journey or not had the right experience. That's not saying they are, but I'll be certainly looking to someone whose sole objective is to make themselves the best coach. That'd be the first thing. And then I'll be looking to, the next thing would be to try and get an idea of the style of coaching. Are you somebody who likes to see data? Do you find that helps you commit to a change? Are you someone who likes to be a little bit more old school? Because that can help, because there's great coaches out there who don't use technology, and there's great coaches who do. So, for me, I tend to use technology. So if someone doesn't like seeing numbers and doesn't like understanding the path, then maybe that's not a great fit. And then after that, I'd be trying to get a little bit of a kind of word of mouth, find someone who's been to see the coach and just get a bit of feedback that way. And then the other thing as well, I've had it in the past where, probably more at the Belfry because I don't do it anymore, but with the Belfry we used to do pay for 5 lessons and get 6. Okay. And people would phone up and say, can I pay for 5 and get 6? And they book in. And I'm like, no, just have 1. Because you might not like what I say, or you might like my style. So never commit to anything. Just book a lesson, and go and see how you get on with them. So see their coaching style. Do you understand their concepts? And I would say, if on that first lesson, if you come away a little unsure about anything that you should be doing, there's probably a few warning signs there, because the communication is, for me now, it's probably the biggest thing. Because certainly I've had situations where the client has misunderstood, and that's my fault as the coach. So you have to know, leaving that lesson, what you should be doing, why you should be doing it, and what to expect. And I think if you can leave that lesson with a really clear idea of, okay, I really got some value and know what I'm trying to do, then you're probably on for a good fit there.
Good stuff.
But it's difficult. It is difficult, because there's multiple coaches out there.
There's so many out there. It's hard to pick one.
Yeah, and if they drop you 10 shots in a month, then they're probably pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I've only had 1 lesson so far, so we'll see how we get on.
Okay, how was it? Good.
Yeah, no, really good. I've really enjoyed it. Like I said, a lot of the concepts he was talking about is stuff that I've researched myself anyway and listened to. So I solely took it on, and I'm trusting it. And he's given me a couple of drills to do every day for a month, which I'm sticking to. And hopefully we'll start seeing some changes. But I'm pretty happy. So
it's just tough, isn't it, in the UK now with winter?
Yeah. I've got my net and my mat in the gardens and my foam golf balls, so I'm good.
Perfect.
Next question is, what would you say is the most common fault you see with amateur golfers? Now, this could be swing related, it could be golf course related? It could be anything.
I mean, there's probably two things that I see as the most common. One would be that the body rarely works well in a golf swing. And for me, I kind of always work inside out. And what I mean by that is if get the body working first and get the club and the arms to work around that. Because there's lots of golfers who will potentially have the club, let's say they video it and the club's out of position. And they see it's out of position, they try and put it in the right position. But it's actually just because the body's not moving correctly. And so if you stand in any sort of golfing position and move your body, the club would move. So there's lots of golfers out there who are trying to put the club into what looks like the right position, but it's actually not. They've got to get the body moving better. So rarely do I see an amateur golfer, and bearing in mind that I coach predominantly amateur golfers, handicaps from 3, 4 up to sort of 20, rarely do they move their body well. And the good thing with that, and this is what I say to all my clients, and this is what maybe you're doing at the moment, is that if you need to work on how your body moves, you can do that away from the range. You can do that at home. You can do that in front of a reflection mirror. And so, just a few minutes a day, having a clear idea about, okay, what am I trying to do? Standing in front of a mirror reflection, getting some feedback, and just learning how to move your body. And again, I say this to most of the people I coach, it's difficult. It's like patting your head and rubbing your tummy because your knees have got to do it, and your hips have got to do it, your shoulders again. It's not easy, but the more reps you do and the more you start to get comfortable with that movement, the more you can start to repeat it, and then you can introduce the golf club. So I'd say body movement and then club face. Just rarely do people get the club face controlled well enough. And then if the club face is out of control, then it's really difficult. Bad stuff breeds more bad stuff. But good stuff breeds good stuff. So get the club face good, other stuff can start to be good as well.
Good stuff. I'm sure you've got some videos on your YouTube channel for that. No, good stuff. And then my last question is kind of away from golf, but it's still related to it. It's people who are obviously trying to push forward with social media. Obviously, you're doing something right. You've got obviously quite a lot of followers. What would your top tips be to sort of grow your account and gain a wider audience?
I was actually on the phone earlier with someone who is in the same sort of situation. They reached out to me and asked if they could have just 5 minutes of my time when we spoke. The thing that I would say is that I would really encourage everyone to try and have an idea about what your end goal is before you do that. And I think I've been quite fortunate that I've done that quite well. And because if I know what my end goal is, that helps me with decisions that I make, and it helps me with the content to put out there. And then the kind of example I would give would be, my goal on social media was to grow an audience who respected me as a coach, saw me as a good golf coach, and who believed that I could help them play better golf. That's my kind of, that's what I'm trying to do. And so every single piece of content has got to kind of fall into line with that. And for me, that means that my audience is actually slightly smaller, because the content about there is specifically to help people play better golf. Now, if I decided that I wanted to make my social channels entertaining, then that appeals to a bigger audience, because if you're just a golfer, you can watch it, it entertains you, but that's not what I'm after. So the kind of idea would be, let's say, just create a scenario here. Let's say I could create a piece of content which wasn't really golf related, but it might go viral and it might get 1 million views. It might gain me 2,000 more followers. They're not the people I really want. It's not actually helping me end goal. They're just people who've stumbled across it because it went viral, and it's actually nothing to do with my golf coaching. So the end goal is key, because I think it's easy to chase the followers and the subscribers, and don't get me wrong, that's important, but for me that's not the be all end all. I probably 3 years ago I could have changed tacks. I could have started doing different types of videos and potentially appeal to a larger audience, and if that went well I could be bigger. But it's everything I do is to actually say, well, okay, I'm a golf coach, that's what I do, and every single piece of content within reason is going to be sort of targeted towards that. So I think having the end goal is important. Knowing what you're trying to do on social media is important. And then I think I would also say to someone, if I just go to who I follow on, let's say, Instagram, and if I just go through 10 people and I was to put down why I follow them, So go Rory McIlroy, why do I follow him? Was a world famous golfer. I just want to see what he's doing.
Yep.
The next person might be just a friend I've known, so it's a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Next one might be, well, this person, I learn video editing tips from them.
Yep.
And I just would start to put down, why am I following those people? And then I'd then say, well, if you don't fall into one of those categories, people aren't going to follow you.
Yep.
So if you're a tennis coach who nobody knows of, you just at work at a little club and you just post videos of you hitting a tennis ball, no one's going to follow you because you're not adding value, you're not famous, you're not a friend. You've got to find your little, why are people going to follow you? Is it because you're famous? Well, most people aren't famous. Is it because now you might want to go down the comedy route? People might follow you because you're funny. That's fine. People want to, but for me, it's this learning value. So I think once you start to know why people are going to follow you and what your end goal is, I think you can start to plan your content much better around that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I think that's a really good tip. And all like you said, almost sort of being true to yourself, isn't it? What is it you want to do, not what does everybody else want to see, sort of thing.
It is. I think what I'd done a few years ago is I kind of, and this was slightly different for platforms because the audience changes, but I tried to do two things a few years ago. I tried to write down who the audience was. So kind of describe the person who would follow me. Mm-hmm. So a quick example, the person who follows me on YouTube is slightly older than the person who follows me on Instagram, and that's just the analytics. So I tried to describe the golfer. So, the Instagram, they might be 20 to 30 years old, they're this age, they like you're trying to describe the golfer. But then I also would want to think, well, what do they want from me? What are they looking at me for? And if for example, if I started posting comedy videos, it's just like, it doesn't fit with what I do.
No.
I'm not saying I'm going to, but I think you've got to have a little bit of consistency, and it's not always about chasing the views and the subscribers. And don't be wrong, that is important. And if you're trying to grow on social, then that's a big part of it. But I think possibly there's too many people out there who are trying to produce content that will get them views, as opposed to thinking, actually, what's my end goal? What do I want to get out of this?
No, great stuff. Well, look, Chris, I'm not going to keep you any longer. You've given me some really good information there. Real deep understanding of where you come from to where you are today. And no wonder why you've got almost 250,000 subscribers on YouTube, let alone what everyone else is on Instagram who follows you. So, no, mate, as I said, I watch a lot of your videos and I think they really add some real good value to my golf. And I can't see why not other people.
Excellent. I'm going to put you on the spot now because I'm guessing this is going to go out after Sunday.
It is.
So the Masters will have finished.
Yep.
So who won the Masters?
I think Rahm's going to come through. I've not checked the score right now, but when I look earlier, he was pulling it back. But no, he was, when it first came to me, I said Rahm. I've got a sweet little soft spot for Morikawa as well, so I'm hoping he does well.
Great, yes, I don't think, but
no,
he's got to hang around having a Thursday Friday.
Okay, who's your pick then?
Well, I struggle to. It's hard to pick a winner. I always back Casey. I always back Casey to get a top five, and he always seems to kind of be there or thereabouts. And actually, obviously, yesterday he played.
We had a good day one.
But he doesn't seem to be ever contending to win, but he always seems to be kind of in that top 10. So I always like Casey for a decent result.
Right. Okay. Good stuff. Well, thanks again, Chris, for coming on, and no doubt we'll talk again soon. And thanks for giving us an insight on who you are.
No problem. Thanks.
So a big thank you to Chris there to coming on the podcast and giving us an insight into what it takes to be a social media influencer. And I think one of the biggest advice he gave there was the fact that whatever you're doing on social media, be true to yourself and what your purpose is and what your main aim to push content out for is. I can't advocate that anymore, really. Something that I'm looking at the moment and how I'm portraying my sort of social media and what I'm trying to achieve in golf. And I'm setting myself some purposes, who my target audience is, and hopefully that will come across on my page very soon. So I hope you enjoyed the episode with a slightly different guest this week. Do the usual stuff. If you like it, make sure you share it on Instagram. You follow me on One Putt Life, and of course subscribe to any platform that you're listening to. So thanks for listening, guys, and hopefully you all enjoyed the Masters, and we'll talk again soon.